Okay, so yesterday we did the interface for our Chuck coin, and today I started doing the actual implementation. So the first thing is I copied the from here the interface methods to this. Now I had to change external, because external is for interfaces, and I changed them to override, public view, override. When you get to these functions, these are views because they're returning data from our contract. And let me remind you, I used as a reference the a couple of things to do this. Let me make sure you can see. So I'm using as a reference this from the Ethereum documentation. I'm also using, among other things, I'm also using, let me see if I can find it. This is the Open Zeppelin implementation, so this is a good base implementation to look at in terms of seeing how it's done. Now they're keeping this pretty up to date if I recall, and it's very well documented. They're using Solidity 8, so it's pretty much up to date, and this is a good basis to base your ERC-20 code on. Let's go back here. So we have that. We have this here. And what I did so far is I put in these, this is the stuff that's being stored in the contract. This is the mappings for balances and allowances. So what this says is you give it an address and it produces the balance. This you give it an address of the I guess person making the allowance and then who they're allowing it to, and that will give you your allowances. Let me see if we can look at their example of okay, so you have to give it the owner and the spender's the one who's allowed to have that little line of credit. And that's your allowance. So that's what this double mapping is about. Because an owner could, let's say, the owner could be giving allowances to a number of other addresses. So that's the purpose there. And what I have to do, of course, is implement all these. These are pretty straightforward. The other thing I need to put in here is a constructor. And that constructor will take a name, which is a string. And I may have to, this may not be perfect. A name, it's going to take a symbol. It's going to take this is for the decimals, which is the divisor. So that would be a uint 8, and that's going to be, and then we're going to have the total supply, and that's going to be our total supply. And hopefully I got this somewhat right. I'm going to cheating. Just make sure. Yeah, well, they did a little different. Of course, this does have to be public. So let's make that public. And it's actually going to write. And so you're going to have like underscore name equals name underscore symbol. This is what you've seen in pretty much any constructor. And didn't like something, so what is it not liking here? Yeah, I spelled it. What's that now? Oh, here's the problem. There we go. Now, what doesn't it like? Okay. So, I believe, yeah, we want to use memory. Because this is the storage. We're not referring to the storage. We're putting it in storage. So we're going to stick that in here. And like that. And what? There we go. Now, what doesn't it like? Actually, I may not. Right, so we don't need it for these, that's right. It probably because it doesn't have to allocate anything. So this goes, yeah, this is still abstract because we haven't implemented these things. But you can see it's also oh, alright, no wonder they did it in the example. So we're gonna do this. I've never seen that because these are methods, but because I guess we're calling the methods the same thing. And you're not calling set and get, that's why. Because typically when you're doing Java code, you do your setters and your getters, and so there's no confusion. Here, what's going on is we got setter, we don't have setters and getters, we're calling them the actual name. So what we have to do is we do have to give it something different. I'm going to just follow the convention I saw in the examples and put a little line here, and that will probably make it happy. So there's no confusion in the computer. And let's see what's unhappy with. So it doesn't need publics, because it assumes it's public. And excuse me, you can see now that it's correct, not giving me any problems. And what we're going to be doing is start implementing these methods, and then we'll get on to these. These are a bit more complex. Remember, in the standard, we have to fire off these events in the transfer and I forget which allowance. Approval has to be fired off in some of these as well. So, transfer, yeah, they have some hidden methods here. But if you remember, it's one of these. Where they talk about the fact that you have to fire off, let's see, token standards, maybe it's there. Let's see. So this is where they go through them. Here. So one of the references we looked at talked about the fact that in some cases, in I believe in approve and in transfer, you have to fire off these events to be following the standard. But anyway, this is our little start. So we have a contract outlined. We still have to go through all these methods. The next four are very simple, returning. We did the constructor, which is a little different than wrote, if you will, because they don't call a get symbol or get decimals, it's just symbol and decimal. So you can't call the inputs to the constructor symbol or decimal, or that's what we discovered when we tried to check it. The other thing is the mappings. That's how it's going to keep track of balances and allowances by mapping addresses to, in one case, an address to a balance, in one case, an address to a number of addresses which are then mapped to allowances. So hopefully this has been helpful. We still got a bit of a way to go, and if you found this helpful, please subscribe to the channel. Please ring the bell. Please give us a like, and please share it with your friends who may be interested. And I will speak to you next time.